Hey, welcome back to Two Doctors Homestead. My name's Daniel, and this is another episode of Prepper Pantry Pick of the Week. Thank you for joining us. We enjoy making the videos, and we're hoping to provide a lot of great information about stocking your pantry, whether it's for an SHTF type scenario or you're just trying to build out a long-term food pantry. There's a lot of reasons to be building out your pantry right now, and we're really trying to give you some ideas, right? Talk about some different options. Every week we grab a product or 2, sometimes 3 or 4, and we just kind of break down how it might fit into your long-term food pantry. So this week's Prepper Pantry Pick of the Week is Jiffy All-Purpose Baking Mix. So we want to jump in to what you get in the box, shelf life, and compare it to some other products. And I've actually got a few freeze-dried items you might want to add into your pantry to go with it. So the Jiffy All-Purpose Baking Mix is a pre-mixed baking mix, right? It already has things like shortening in your baking powder or baking soda in it, so it's ready to go. It is more expensive per calorie than just buying flour, but if you're not familiar with baking, if you don't have a lot of experience baking, you're kind of intimidated by the idea, or you just want something quick and easy, certainly a pre-mix is an option. It's not a horrible option. We'll kind of jump into it. So there's 33 servings in the container, 140 calories per serving, so that's a total of 4,620 calories in the box. So that's $3.78. You get 4,620 calories. So if you wanted to look at a 1,500 calorie diet, and we look at 1,500 and 2,000, sometimes both, depending on the video and the product, and we get that from FDA, which is kind of a standard government advised, not saying you need to follow the advice of the government all the time, but they have some general caloric intake advice, and it really is just general guidelines, right? They say 1,500 calories keeps you above the starvation level. 2,000 calories is supposed to be sort of a normal diet, right? Your caloric intake will depend on you, right? I can't tell you how many calories you should eat, but they recommend 1,500 minimum to stay above starvation, and most of the nutritional information you'll find on any package is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So having said that, if you get the Jiffy baking mix, you're going to pay $1.22 for a 1,500 calorie day. So if you look at just your basic minimal stay above starvation average day, that's $1.22, which is not horrible. It's not as cheap as flour. I think flour came in about 50 cents a day for 1,500 calories. When we looked at bulk rice, I think that was closer to 40 cents a day. So $1.22 is certainly more than that. But in terms of general survival, it's still a pretty good option, $1.22. It's a lot cheaper than a lot of other things. If you're going for a 2,000 calorie a day diet, that's $1.63 per day. So we looked at 1,500 calories, one box. If you were to look at this as a 3-day food supply, right? So this one box for $3.78 is 72 hours worth of food at 1,500 calories. This is a 3-day food supply. You look online for a 3-day food supply, you're going to end up paying $15-20. Technically, this is it, right? This is $3.78, $1.22 a day at 1,500 calories. This is 3 days worth of food. Saying you should live on it for 3 days, I think it's probably all right, right? You're going to want to add other things to it. You're going to want to bake with it. It's not ready to go out of the box. You don't just pour it in your mouth. So it may not be as easy to eat as, say, an MRE, but it's a fraction of the price of a lot of other options. So at 2,000 calories, it's 2.3 days worth of food. So somewhere in that 2 to 3 days worth of food for one box. So each serving, there's 33 servings in the container. Each serving gets you 4.5 grams of fat, 340 milligrams of sodium, 22 grams of carbohydrates, and 2 grams of protein. So if you ate the entire box, you'd be getting 11,220 milligrams of sodium, which is a lot. CDC recommends about 2,300 per day. If you're young and healthy, it probably doesn't matter. If you're old like me, or if you have any kind of heart issues or anything like that, you do need to watch your sodium. So you would not want to survive exclusively on this unless you just like really pushing the sodium limit, right? There's also a total of 66 grams of protein in the box. Daily recommended is 50. So it's more than a day's worth of protein, but when you're putting it out over 2-3 days of eating the box, you're going to be a little light on the protein side. It also contains calcium, iron, and potassium. It does contain milk and wheat, so it's not gluten-free, and it's not good if you're lactose intolerant. Probably not an option for you. There are other options. So shelf life, we'll jump into shelf life a little bit. It has 1 year on the box, right? And that's the best by date. We talk about the best by date every time. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to expire the moment, the day, right? And a minute after the day on the box passed, it doesn't necessarily expire. But anytime you're going past the best by date, you have to use your best judgment. Does it look good? Does it smell good? Any off flavors? Anything like that, right? You just want to be careful. You don't want to eat anything that has gone rancid or anything else, right? And with a baking mix, the shelf life is not going to be as long as, say, just flour, because they've rolled all the ingredients together into one. I want to talk about that a little bit. The number 2 ingredients are bleached wheat flour and vegetable shortening. Those are the 2 main ingredients in here. Those will both last a long time, right? So we're saying 1 year on the box, but the top 2 ingredients will last well beyond that, right? Once again, you got to use your best judgment. What gets you is it has baking soda. Baking soda is the leavening agent, so it's going to make your mixes, what you're baking, rise. So the baking soda can lose that ability before it goes bad. It loses its potency potentially as little as after 6 months. So you may make these and say, hey, it's not rising, my breads or my biscuits or everything's flat. It's something we've encountered before, and you can actually add baking soda into it when you're getting ready to bake it, or baking powder into it, and that'll kind of give it a little boost. Once again, you got to use your best judgment. You got to be careful. But if you're going to use it, if it's pushing a little bit older and it's just not rising, you can actually mix some of that back in if you have some baking soda, baking powder, something like that that hasn't expired, hasn't lost its potency, right? So you can work with it a little bit. Now, in terms of cooking suggestions, it's got a ton of great recipes on it. We went with Jiffy. Bisquick is another option, and we were looking at Bisquick at the store. The Bisquick was actually a little more expensive per ounce. Bisquick has a very distinct flavor. If you think about the dinner rolls you get at some restaurants, you can tell immediately, hey, those are Bisquick, right? No matter what you make with Bisquick, it's going to have that Bisquick flavor. You might love it, you might hate it, you might not care, but each of these baking mixes has a distinct flavor. So we went with the Jiffy. We already have some Bisquick stashed away, but if you don't like one, maybe try a different one. They're not that expensive that you can't explore over time, right? Get one. If you say, hey, I don't like that, maybe try a different one. After you've been using the mixes for a long time, maybe you're ready to try just baking with more basic ingredients. Get your own flour and whatnot, save some money. But once again, these do have their place. So I want to add a couple items in here. You look on the back of the box, you got apple crisp, you got sugar cookies, you got shortcakes, pancakes, banana nut bread, dumplings, those kind of things. Most of the recipes are going to want you to add some other stuff to it. So this is a freeze-dried butter powder that we got. We already opened it up for a cooking competition, but this says on here 2033. So this is going to last a very long time, 10 years, 15, 20 years. So you might want to add some freeze-dried butter powder to your pantry. Also, we have the whole milk powder, right? Another good item for the pantry. And we've gone over both of these before. This says about 1.5 years shelf life left on the container. You can kind of explore on that, and perhaps it'll last a little bit longer. But if you want to hit some of these recipes like the dumplings, it's 2 cups baking mix and 2/3 cups milk. So you can replace the milk powder with the milk, and you're good to go in Shtf. When the zombies attack, you'll be at home eating your dumplings, right? Now, in terms of cooking, you might say, hey, Shtf, I can't bake, right? What am I supposed to do with this? I can't bake anything. You can actually throw it in a cast iron pot on a campfire, right? And still make your dumplings, make yourself some cobbler or something like that. So even in a total societal collapse, you can have your cherry cobbler with your Jiffy baking mix, maybe throw in a couple other freeze-dried items. Now, I want to give you another option before we cut out here is Carb Quick. So if you are keto, if you're gluten intolerant, actually, sorry, I can't say gluten intolerant. If you're carb intolerant, right, if you're keto friendly, let me confirm that real quick. I threw that out there. I don't know that it's gluten free. Yeah, it does have wheat, so not gluten free. If you're carb intolerant, you can look something like the Carb Quick. 90% fewer carbs. You still have most of the calories there. This 3-pound box, 48 ounces, was $20.95. So it's about 5 times the price of something like a Jiffy baking mix. This was 2 pounds, 8 ounces. You get fewer calories, but you get a lot less carbs, or net carbs at least. And the way they do that is you have more fiber per serving. So it's 14 grams fiber, 16 grams total carbs. So you're only getting about 2 net carbs per serving. So if you're going for a low carb diet, something keto friendly, Carb Quip is certainly an option. It's going to be more expensive anytime you're going keto friendly. You'll find that things are a tad bit more expensive. So I hope that helps out. Once again, I think the Jiffy is a great, any baking mix is a great option for your long-term prepper pantry. So thank you for watching, and we appreciate you.